Fear Not, episode 142. Hi, I'm Billy Atwell, and I believe that consistently facing your fears is the only way to realize your truest self and to make those confident choices that will help you to obtain your deepest held hopes and dreams. I have faith that this podcast series will show you that you are not alone, that it will strengthen you and give you courage to face your fears, and that it will help you to permanently cross over into a life of living beyond your fears. Join me on this journey as we listen and learn from others as they share their experiences in facing and overcoming their own fears. Hello, everybody. Today, you and I are going to be joined by Kathleen Pooler. Welcome, Kathleen. How are you today?
Thank you, Billy. I'm fine. It's great to be here.
Are you ready to fear not today?
Absolutely.
Kathleen is a retired family nurse practitioner and the author of Forever Faithful to His Lead, My Journey Away from Emotional Abuse. The soon-to-be-published sequel to her memoir, The Edge of Hope, is about how the power of hope through the faith in God helped her to transform, heal, and transcend life's obstacles and disappointments. Domestic abuse, divorce, single parenting, loving and letting go of an alcoholic son, cancer, and heart failure has not kept her from living a life of joy and contentment. Kathleen believes that hope matters and that we are all strengthened and enlightened when we share our stories. Kathleen, can you take a few moments to fill in those gaps and maybe also give us a brief glimpse of your personal life?
Sure. Well, it's true. I'm living a life of peace and joy and serenity now, but it wasn't always that way. I spent my first 18 years in a stable Christian family, and then the next 25 years was spent in the abyss of two abusive marriages, emotionally abusive. I never was physically abused. I got out before that happened. So there were a lot of lessons to be learned, but as I look back, I think about how did I get from there to here? How did I get to a life of peace and joy and serenity when I lived in the abyss for 25 years? So that's actually the impetus for writing my first book, Ever Faithful to His Lead, My Journey Away from Emotional Abuse, where I actually finally find my voice. And I hope to share that with other women who find themselves in that situation. So the lessons that I learned, I hope to share with other people.
Kathleen, would you also mind sharing with us today one of the biggest fears that you've had to face?
Well, probably the very biggest fear was my son is an alcoholic. And just living through, that's the subject of my work in progress memoir, The Edge of Hope. And I just feared for his life on a daily basis. I really did think he was going to make it. He did make it. He is 41 years old and he's doing well. But it was also the struggle with him was simultaneous with my own diagnosis of stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So there were two battles I was fighting at the same time. And I got to the other side.
How did you get to the other side?
Well, I had a mantra. My faith is greater than my fear. I think faith, family, friends are what really did get me through on a day-to-day basis, because it was a day-to-day struggle. And I think the only way to the other side is through. So you have to be aware of what your fears are, first of all, and you have to be willing to walk towards them so that you can get to the other side. And there's also a saying that sometimes our greatest obstacles become our greatest blessings, because when you are faced with life's challenges, such as alcoholism in a beloved son or a life-threatening diagnosis of your own, you are forced to dig down deep inside and pull out all the resources that you have available to you to make it through the day. And what I found is I found an inner strength that I didn't even know I had until I had to face those challenges. Like I said, my upbringing was it wasn't not necessarily idyllic, but it was certainly very stable and loving. And I did not witness or see anything terribly unusual. I lived in the safe cocoon of my family. And so when I went out into the world, I was really not prepared for to face challenges, except that something must have happened during that stable childhood, because I was able to pull from within myself the strength. And I think faith played a huge part in my ability to overcome my fears and my ability to heal and recover and move forward in my life.
Kathleen, you mentioned that, going through circumstances, you discover things, and you mentioned that you discovered power that you didn't have. Would you share that with us? What did you discover?
I just discovered that I was stronger than I thought I was, and that I had everything I needed within me to do what I needed to do. And it was just a matter of awareness of that gift. It's a gift. It's a gift to be able to be aware of what your strengths are and what you have that enables you to fight any challenge you have to face. So I guess that's, in a way, that's confidence, self-confidence. I didn't think I had any until I was tested. And I didn't, that in itself was a gift to have these challenges, because I discovered these strengths within myself that I did not appreciate before. And that was something, it's almost like rock bottom becomes like a solid foundation that you can then build on.
Beyond your challenges, what else has helped you to shape your view on how you handle fear, whether it be a book or any source of material that you might be able to share with us today so that we could, look at it and maybe possibly implement it into our own lives?
Well, the Bible is certainly probably the all-time favorite book that has just wisdom that carries throughout all the generations. And it becomes a guiding light when things aren't going the way we want them to, or when we feel desperate. I think of my favorite scripture, which is "Be still and know that I am Lord," from the Psalms, and that has really given me strength, because sometimes when you're faced with these challenges, you don't have the energy to really think for yourself, and so you rely on like short sayings that really can build you up and keep you going just one step forward, one more day, just keep going forward. And I think sometimes these simple phrases, scripture readings, phrases. Also, I attended Al-Anon meetings that the same thing. They have these little mantras. You didn't cause it, you can't control it, that type of thing. And just saying those things in your mind helps to guide your actions. And then it translates into you accepting life as it is and moving forward.
Are you ready for the speed round?
Sure, why not?
What individual, whether they be fiction or real, has made the most impact on your life?
My great grandma Renzi. She's a little Italian lady, came over on the boat, and she was very religious, and she planted the seeds of faith in me from way when I was just a tiny little girl. In fact, she used to say to me, Katerina, you want to be a nun or you want to get married? And I would say to my mother, oh, Mom, I don't want to be a nun. No, no, no. And I figured she had a lot of pull from upstairs. But no, the vision of her and what she went through, and her husband died when she was pregnant with their 9th child, and they lived in poverty, and all her children grew up. They're my great aunts and uncles and my grandmother, and they lived good lives. And whenever I've been faced with just sitting by the bay window and waiting for first of all, my husband to come home because he'd been drinking, and then years later, my son, I'd pull out my rosary beads and I'd envision my grandma Ramsey, who said, with God, all things are possible. And so she's just always, always with me. And she did plant those seeds that have really made a difference in my life.
If you could instantly change one thing in the world, what would you change?
Oh, my goodness. People need to be kinder. I want people to be kinder and respect each other more, and have more open communication, and try to understand and live with differences, and respect another person for who they are, and let them be who they are, and not try to change everybody.
What's your biggest weakness?
My biggest weakness is probably also my biggest strength too. Is sensitivity. I'm very sensitive, and it's a double-edged sword. And oftentimes it works to my advantage, but oftentimes it doesn't. So I have to work on ways to protect myself because I am sensitive.
If you could only have one book to read, what's that book going to be?
Oh, I already mentioned the Bible. I'd have to say that again.
Do you have a favorite sound?
We live out in the woods, and I love to hear the birds chirping.
And Kathleen, if someone would like to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, I have a blog. It's kpooler.com. It's called Memoir Writer's Journey, sharing hope one story at a time. There's my email, kpooler63@gmail.com. And I'm on Facebook. My author page is Kathleen Pooler, and my personal page is Kathy Pooler. And I'm on all the social media channels, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, any number of ways.
And what parting advice would you like to leave with us today?
Life is precious. Live life to the fullest. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because it's through the mistakes that we sometimes learn our greatest lessons. And cherish yourself. Be yourself. Claim your voice and be yourself.
That's really great advice, and thank you for that. And Kathleen, I also want to thank you, too, for coming on the show today and sharing your story and how you deal with fear and just spending time with us today. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Billy. It's a pleasure. And thank you for having this program to kind of inspire others to face their fears.
Thank you for joining me today. And remember, you cannot achieve everything, but you do have the God-given ability to achieve anything. So stay focused, out of fear, and keep on keeping on. Until next time, Be well and peaceful. For more information on today's episode and guest, or for resources that will assist you in overcoming your fears, visit livingbeyondyourfears.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, where 3 times a week we move to a life beyond our fears.